Hello, good evening. Welcome. This is Hot Edition. We're live on YouTube at Adesawe Kanda, also live on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. We're live on W93.5 in Wa and beyond. You can also watch us live as we're streaming this program on Facebook and X at 3FM 927. Share your thoughts, views, comments, and opinions with us here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Coming up this evening, organized labor exerts pressure on governments as it is set to embark on a nationwide demonstration against the government's imposition of the 15% VAT on electricity consumption. We'll tell you what organized labor has in mind here on the Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Also, Public Interest and Accountability Committee, PIAC, raises concerns about the failure of the Jubilee Oil Holdings Limited to pay some $70 million into Ghana's Petroleum Holding Fund. We'll tell you why this is happening. Also, withdraw emissions levy. The timing is wrong. Guess who is saying this? The national organizer of the NPP, Harry Nana Boakye, is asking government to withdraw the controversial emissions levy, which was supposed to kick in yesterday, and according to the GRE, they had some technical issues in operationalizing that platform. We'll tell you details of these, plus the latest in business, sport, and entertainment coming up over the next 60 minutes. I am Alfred Ocansey. Welcome. Let's get into the details now, as organized labor is piling up pressure on government from all fronts as members are set to embark on a nationwide demonstration against government over the imposition of a value-added tax on electricity consumption. In fact, there's no clarity whether it's going to be 15% or 21%, but that Labour had earlier given government a 2-week ultimatum, which elapsed on the 31st of January to withdraw the controversial tax, but that has not happened, and according to Labour, this failure is what's propelled them to look at the next way forward. It will be recalled the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, had earlier in a press release directed the Electricity Company of Ghana and the Northern Electricity Distribution Company to work with the Ghana Revenue Authority to implement a VAT on households that consume power above the maximum consumption level specified for block charges for lifeline units effective January 1, 2024. Now, organized labor in protest against the policy has announced a nationwide demonstration, and we're talking about the Trade Union Congress, with about 35 of its members all in agreement and alignment with this position by the TUC. Here's Secretary General of the Trade Union Congress, Anthony Yalba, talking at the press conference earlier today.
This government is taking Ghanaians for granted. And so we are going to lead a very massive demonstration in all the regional capitals, the 60 regional capitals of Ghana, on the 13th of February. That will be Tuesday. That is this Tuesday's week. We have taken this decision firmly, and we have appointed a committee to plan it. We have also taken a decision that the only reason why we will not embark on that demonstration is when government withdraws, and that we are not in any position to have any discussion on anything. If government doesn't want us to demonstrate against it, they should do what? If they withdraw, they should inform us officially. If we don't hear any official communication on the withdrawal, on the 13th of February, all workers in this country, formal and informal, public and private, are stopping work, and we are going to demonstrate to government that we can never be taken for granted again. That is the end.
Well, so that's the Secretary General of the Trade Union Congress, Dr. Anthony Yalba there. But let's stay a bit further on this matter, because the Deputy Secretary General of the Trade Union Congress, Joshua Ansah, is joining us on the telephone. Good evening, Zaza. Thank you for joining us here on Hot Edition.
Good evening.
It's good to have you. Let me also welcome Austin Game, who is a labor expert and CEO of Game & Associates. Austin Game, good evening. Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome, sir.
Great. Now,
good evening.
Fantastic. Let me start off with you, Mr. Ansah. First off, now your position is quite clear. You've communicated you're going on a nationwide as it were, demonstration on this matter. And
please, can you raise your voice a little?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can now hear you.
Great. Now you're saying that you're going to embark on a nationwide demonstration on the 13th, which is just some 12 days away from today. Now, I recall that the finance minister had, in a letter, invited you for some dialogue on this matter. Is that to say that within this period, even before the demonstration, if that meeting is called, Labour is not going to honor it?
Thank you very much. And let me say hi to all workers of this country and your cherished listeners. Yes, it is clear that there is no way we are going to meet with anybody. We are not going to meet with the finance minister. We are not going to meet with anybody until our demand is met, until the 15% VAT is withdrawn from the electricity bill to workers.
See, in that same letter, the finance minister is talking about giving some clarity on this VAT, and so as to get your buy-in. That does not suffice?
It's never suffice because, you see, the interesting point of this letter is that they will have discussions with stakeholders for their buy-in into VAT. If government thinks that he has any discussion to do with labor and other stakeholders, he should have done that before even thinking about imposing that tax on electricity bill. But he did not do that, and after we have asked for a total withdrawal, the government sit back and said that they want to have a discussion with us on what. We don't want any discussion on anything. All what we are demanding is that it's a killer tax. It's going to bring additional burden to workers and Ghanaians, and we don't want it. It must be withdrawn. The only thing that will let us stop our strike, our demonstration on the 13th is to see a letter officially written by the government or by the minister or any representative that the 15% VAT is totally withdrawn. Then it will pave the way for us to have a discussion with anybody. Anything short of that, we are not prepared to meet with anybody.
I see. So you're expecting this engagement or this dialogue to get your buy-in even before this VAT was put before Parliament?
There was no discussion with anybody. There was no discussion with organized labor. There was no discussion with anybody. I don't recall there was even a meeting discussed. It was a directive to the GRA and the electricity company and the NETCO, which of course you think that it doesn't give recognition to workers of this very country. At least we have two major ways of communicating to workers. You have the tripartite committee, which involves the workers, the employers, and government itself. We also have the social partnership, which also involves the government, workers, and employers. Nothing of that sort was discussed with any of this structure, and all what we had is that a circular is floating around that there should be imposition of 15% VAT on the workers, on the electricity bill. We think that the government did not show respect to workers, and we are not going to accept that. We will resist it with the electoral power that we have. And the only thing that the government will have a peace of mind is to withdraw this VAT. Then we can have peace and thinking of meeting and discussing anything. But we are not asking for a reduction, not asking for anything. We are asking for a total withdrawal.
Anytime this matter has come up in conversations on programs that I have, for instance, hosted, government's position is that, look, this was passed in 2013.
By government.
They are only implementing what was passed in 2013 for that matter.
So why is it that from 2013 this thing has not been implemented and that it is being implemented now? Is it because of IMF? Are the IMF more important than Ghanaians, which we voted you to power? I think the government must be sensitive to workers and people of this country. I don't think IMF can come and rule this country for us. You are a government. We voted you to power to take care of your citizenry. So anything that would come and break the neck of your citizenry, government must find a way out of that. If IMF is telling you to put 50% VAT on electricity bill, which you know our salaries cannot even take us from the office to the taxi station to take taxis home. You are going to impose this tax on us again. I don't think it's right, my brother. You will resist it. You will not pay. Government must withdraw. That is the only thing we want the government to do, sir.
Right. But Mr. Gama, and Joshua,
Yes,
please
sir.
stay with me a bit. Send me, don't leave us yet.
Okay.
I'm bring in
Okay.
Mr. Osingame at this point.
Okay.
It appears clearly, Mr. Game, that Labour is at its wit's end. They gave government an ultimatum. That ultimatum period has elapsed. The resolution now is a demonstration, nationwide demonstration on the 13th of this month to drum home that position to government. How much of an impact will this make?
Thank you. And greetings to my brother Joshua over there. The reality here is that there is some disorderliness in our industrial relations landscape. And we must put things in proper perspective. When it comes talking about a situation like this, the labor law clearly creates space. Under section 113, section C, the whole of 113 is about the functions of the National Tripartite Committee. Subsection C is very clear that you'll be talking about things of national importance relative to the economy. And therefore, if government intends to implement a law that had been passed in 2013, even at that time, there was an IMF program around the turn of 2016 thereabout. But the government then did not find it prudent to implement this. They themselves did not also implement it until recently. So they did not offer themselves opportunity to invite the social partners, indeed in this case, they are stakeholders, to a national tripartite committee meeting where on the agenda will be specific issue of certain kind of taxes, such as the VAT issue, the emission issue, and related matters. Because as they embark upon this thing, they are inviting problem of working people. And I think that the government should listen to this cry. And because they are not just talking about the formal sector, it includes the informal sector. They cannot stand the avalanche of this problem. So I think that the best thing to do is to have it withdrawn. Then they can reconnect and engage properly. And I think that there will be a solution for all of us to have our peace.
I see. So if you talk about disorderliness on the labor front, on the part of who? Who is supposed to bear the responsibility of this disorderliness?
Oh, obviously, it is this matters I'm not referring to it as employer per se. This is government decision. Because if this were to be a negotiable issue in a condition of service, if it's like collective agreement, organized labor will not be organizing a meeting like this. But they would have had a meeting between the employer and workers negotiating their condition of service. But this is a macroeconomic decision taken by central government. And so it's only government that can withdraw this. The disorderliness is coming from the government. It's not organized labor. They are not embarking upon a strike. No, this is not a strike issue. This is not an issue that they will be invited by National Labour Commission. No, this is purely macroeconomic decision made by government, central government. It is not employer-worker relationship matter.
See, so, but they've made it quite clear that demonstration is the next step. And I was asking about how much of an impact this will make, especially you making reference to the processes that should have been employed even before this point that the labor has resorted to now.
The impact is decisive, it's immediate, and nobody will blame anybody because it's not going to be just organized labor people. It's countrywide. It's countrywide. And the informal sector is well over who are working on their own day-to-day basis. They are 1/5 million people. So they shouldn't take anything for granted.
Mr. Garment, thank you. Appreciate your time on this as always. And Mr. Ansam, just to help our listeners and our viewers on Facebook, I appreciate the numbers that we're talking about. If the TUC and its members decide to go on a demonstration, what is government going to be dealing with on the 13th of February?
No, this is the first place. It's not the TUC and its members. It is organized labor. And organized labor comprises of all workers, all informal. that Austin was referring to. So it's not an issue of TUC and it's a 22 affiliate. It's a nationwide something. All workers, every worker who earns something, whether informally or formally, is part of this demonstration. And I think that from Monday, you will see all over the country people in red bands, hoisting red flags, wherever, signaling that there's danger looming ahead of us. So I think that the best advice I can give to the government is for him to withdraw and use the proper channel to discuss this matter. Otherwise, it's not going to be a healthy situation for us on the 13th. And this one is a test case for everyone in this very country, my brother.
And then so talk about every worker, and that includes me or us here at 3FM and TV3.
This is fair that I'm inviting you sitting at the radio station there to start putting on your red band from Monday, because you're also a worker who pays electricity bill, and this tax is going to affect everybody. Anybody who tells you that some people are exempted, it's a lie. It's going to affect everybody, because this 15% VAT on the last line contains only 2 boxes, 1 fan, and half spray. And every worker in this country has it. So it is going to affect everybody. Even those who don't work are able to buy 1 fan in their homes and 1 bulb. So my brother, it includes you, and I'm inviting all of you to be ready for this fight, because if you don't stop it now, even the air you breathe is going to be taxed. Who knows? So let us all rise up to the occasion and ensure that government withdraws this tax so that you have a peace of mind in this very country. Already workers are begging with a lot of problems in this very country, and you don't want any additional begging.
Well, the finance minister is saying that this is part of the post-COVID-19 program for economic growth, including what we've seen now in posting higher than program growth targets and so on. And so you should support them.
So is this the only way? Is this the only tax that can support the post-COVID, whatever the minister is talking about? Already the extra board, where is it? Already the taxes that you are collecting, where is it? Already all the payment that you have been making for the development of this very country, where is it? Is this 15% VAT on electricity bill of 4 workers who doesn't take home even 500 Ghana? Is that the only source to actually be the source for the Ghana to survive? I don't think it is right. It is rather going to kill all of us. Who will the government then govern? So I'm pleading. We are saying that government must at least reason with us and withdraw this tax. This 50% tax will not do anything. It will not take us from our situation. It will not do anything at all.
Zaza, I thank you very much.
Government has a lot of ways of getting money. Our way of collecting taxes in this country is not effective enough to get enough money. If we have a very good way of collecting taxes in this very country, they will not need for us even to go and borrow from IMF. There are so many people walking in the streets of this Ghana who earn millions, but they don't pay tax. What is the government doing about that? What are they doing about property rates? What are they doing about how to get taxes from everyone? People who have the offices in their portfolios. But only the poor workers who have their names in the payroll are always being burdened with taxes. Enough of the tax, my brother. We are tired. This time, we are tired.
Zaza, I appreciate your time on this one. I thank you so much.
You're welcome, my brother.
As Deputy Secretary General of the Trade Union Congress, Joshua Ansah, there, clear in their resolve and the decision that they have taken today. He says it's not just about the TUC or its 22 affiliate members. You're talking about all workers going on that nationwide demonstration on the 13th of February, which is just some 11 days away from now, because of this non-response on the part of government to the ultimatum to abolish the idea of imposing VAT on electricity consumption in this country. That's a TUC have communicated this particular decision. A number of other groups have also launched onto it to support this call or this decision by the TUC, NAGRAT, NAT. We also have the Civil and Local Government Staff Association, CLOCSAG, and then also the Nurses and Midwives Association of Ghana. All of them are on board in this demonstration. So we're talking about nurses and midwives who are going to abandon their posts on that day to join this demonstration. And you can also imagine the telling effect and the impact that this will have. Perpetual Foriampofo is the president of the Nurses and Midwives Association of Ghana. She's been talking.
Our conditions of service is not the best. The salaries we are taking and all that we are having to deal with within the economy, we cannot add on a VAT on domestic use of electricity. So I think at the last meeting, what we said was that we are asking or requesting government to withdraw this so that we can have more some flexibility in terms of living with the remuneration that we are having, and we cannot deal with the VAT on electricity. The Ministry of Finance issued a press release that was in the public domain. We all saw it, we all read it. That is it.
So that is it. That's according to the Nurses and Midwives Association of Ghana. That's Perpetual Foriampofo president there. And now talking about taxes, levies, and matters arising. Guess what? The national organizer of the ruling New Patriotic Party, Henry Nana Boakye, commonly known as Nanabi, is urging the government to immediately withdraw the emissions levy. Now, Henry Nana Boakye contends that the emissions levy are typically imposed on developed nations that have embraced electric cars to address climate change. He said Ghana has not reached a stage where electric cars are prevalent enough to justify imposing such a levy on petrol and diesel vehicles. During an interview earlier today, Henry Nana Boakye called on President Akufo-Addo to instruct the finance minister to withdraw the levy. This is coming from the national organizer of the ruling NPP. Yeah, so he's joining the calls for the abolition of this emissions levy, which was supposed to take effect yesterday. And the reason why it did not take effect is because, according to the Ghana Revenue Authority, the platform that was supposed to be operationalized to ensure that this payment is done was not up as at yesterday. So that's what's happening. That's the latest to this as we speak already. And some environmentalists and others have questioned the basis for this emissions levy. And the Ghana Private Road Transport Union, GPRTU, has also suggested a potential fare increase in response to the implementation of the Emissions Levy Act 2023, and that despite the earlier suspension of this proposed 20% fare hike in January, if you recall, following the intervention of the Transport Minister, the government has now implemented this emissions levy as per the notice by the GRA 2 days ago. And GPRTU says if this kicks in, they have no option than to increase transport fares. Something we'll keep an eye on as well, and we'll be telling you a bit more about this here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Your thoughts, views, comments, and opinions are welcome. The hashtag we're using is Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7 on Facebook and X. Now, the leader of the Movement for Change, Alan Kojo Chamanteng, is saying he will move beyond working with a manifesto to the implementation of a non-partisan national development plan. He says this will meet the real needs of Ghanaians. Speaking at a national economic summit organized by his movement, the independent presidential aspirant said in the midst of an economic crisis, Ghanaians with the required competencies are looking for a non-partisan platform to contribute ideas and policies that will transform the country, which he seeks to provide.
First, the need to mobilize all talents in our country towards the development of our dear motherland, irrespective of our political, religious, or ethnic affiliation. Second, there's a compelling desire by a majority of Ghanaians to move Ghana beyond party manifestos towards the formulation of a national development plan, which all Ghanaians can sign up to. Thirdly, the majority of Ghanaians are deeply worried about our current economic circumstances and are looking for an opportunity to contribute ideas to finding solutions to our problems. It is against the foregoing background that over the last few months, I have assembled a team of some of the best and brightest in our country from different fields of specialization to formulate a plan that will move Ghana from poverty to prosperity. The outcome of these consultations has been the development of what I have christened as the Great Transformational Plan, GTP. The plan is anchored.
That's Alan Kojo Chawanting there. We're going to be hearing a bit more from him shortly here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7 on this National Economic Summit organized by his movement and talk about issues of national development.
Under 5 clusters, namely economic, infrastructure, social services, governance, and behavioral and attitudinal change. The economic cluster of the GTP serves as the working document for our conversation today. The unique feature of this document, of this GTP, which will be reflected in the presentations, is that it focuses on solutions rather than debating the causes of our problems. There is absolutely no doubt that we have had the opportunity as a people to diagnose extensively the causes of our problems in the country. What Ghanaians are looking for now are solutions to these problems. It will therefore be apparent to you as participants that the content of our discussions will be solution-oriented. The presentations would focus primarily on very specific policy recommendations or prescriptions. In evaluating the viability of the prescriptions that we will present today, it is important for us to appreciate the integrated nature of the problems that confront us. And therefore, what you find contained in the 4 other clusters, aside from the economic clusters, have an impact on our economy. For example, some of the key governance challenges contribute directly to the economic crisis we find ourselves today.
As Alan Kojo Chawanting there, he's a leader of the Movement for Change. And let's stay a bit further on this. And Professor Smart Sapong is an associate professor at the Kumasi Technical University. He's a political analyst as well, joining us for a conversation. Professor Smart Sapong, good evening. Thank you for joining us here on Hot Edition.
Yes, good evening, my brother.
Great. Now, we know our problems. As a matter of fact, we are all faced with the everyday challenges of this country. But looking and having studied the political landscape, would you say that Ghanaians are at the point where they appreciate the solution to the problems we are faced with outside of the 2 political parties? I'm talking about the NDC and the NPP.
Well, a very good afternoon to yourself. Good evening to yourself and our cherished listeners. I don't think Ghanaians may be ready for that now. But what Ghanaians are wishing that these 2 political parties with well-established structures that can be traced to the very communities where we all come from would be able to help us exit the challenges that periodically or cyclically we get confronted with. It will be quite strange for the Ghanaians that we all know, you and I know, to abandon such political parties with well-established structures to go trusting individuals who appear to be all alone without so much traceable structures, to trust that perhaps they have a solution to our problems. More so when they appear to be coming. Almost all the independent candidates we've had from 92 appear to be breakaway of these 2 political parties. So, yes, you belong to one of these 2 political parties by your genes, by your genetic makeup. Only that for some reasons you tend to move away from the umbrella or the elephant. And then overnight it appears they have a solution to the... Let's trust that the systems with well-built structures can help if the leadership and the persons that represent the various sectors of our economy from these established political parties are able to play their role well, take away the corruption that always engulfs us, decide to be Ghanaians and stand with Ghana and be true to us, then we can be out of these challenges that we do find ourselves in. But I think that for the absence of the well-built structures traceable to our communities, it will be very dangerous for Ghanaians to trust independent candidates better than the well-established political parties.
Well, but you see, the position that you've just espoused, you all preceded with the hope that the two political parties will break the cycle of corruption and others, which takes away a lot from us as a people. So how about the consideration of the likes of Alan Chimantin supporters who say that there has to be a break, a revolutionary approach to changing that cycle, not necessarily based on hope, your hope, that hopefully things will get better. We have to be intentional about it. How about that?
Yes, the intentional nature of it is good, and we all have to be intentional about it. And my concern has to do with the traceability of these agents. The agents of the well-established political parties are down to our various communities. We have them there. There are people who live with us in the rural communities, the very core of the communities that we can confront or discuss with the hope that we can send our concerns up to the next level till it gets to perhaps the seat of government. And these are traceable structures that has been well established within these two political parties that we know. My concern is that if the trust is going to be vested in few people, or one person, an independent candidate with few people, and the trace perhaps ends in Accra or the regional capitals, with that trace to the very communities, won't it be rather very difficult to rebuild the nation or fight corruption as compared to the system where we have people traceable? You see, so if the independent candidates are able to build a well-established structure, such that yes, I'm an independent candidate, but I have my representative in your community, that if you need anything from me, you can pass it through, or if anything goes wrong, the answers to those questions can be found from this and that persons responsible. That would make those people down there extra responsible and ensure that they always have good answers to the queries that will come from the people. So with the missing link, with that structural establishment link missing, I find it quite easy for an independent candidate to break their vows. And of course, Alfred, we've heard these sweet talks quite a number of times. Those of us who've been part of the system from at least 92 coming every year, these political parties or independent candidates or their agents do tell us things that are nice. And I don't think it is because we didn't try them. That is why we got what we got. We tried them, and eventually they failed us. The good news is that some sectors usually don't fail, others fail. So if the political parties, especially the two major political parties, would do proper assessment of their tenure every time they finish the first 4 years, and they do very proper detailed proper, true to themselves, they would have realized that, as for sectors like, for example, health, education, at least we did quite good. Where did we fail? Okay, we failed in finance and economy. We failed in agriculture. Okay, what should we do? Then it will inform some structural changes, some reshuffling, a lot of. But usually they get deceived by the people closer to them, tell them, everything is well. Economy and finance is on this feet. We have turned the corner. Maybe we are turning the corner, whatever. Agric is the best, blah, blah, blah. And the reality dawns on all of us when things have gone bad. Okay, so it's got to do with more of being true to ourselves as a people and then being accountable, other than changing from one person to the other because the person has just left the umbrella and overnight he has become a proponent of independent rulership or something else from what we have now. So I think that is where the problem is.
And talk about the emblem reference. Maybe you just say that the person just left the umbrella. Maybe you probably
nice
think
one.
that
Thank you, so.
you say the person just left the elephant family or something of the sort.
So the elephant and sure.
Fantastic. That's a great point that you make there about what has to be done going forward. Certainly, we can't continue to do the same things and expect different results.
At all.
Professor Smartsapon, appreciate your time as always. Thank you. Thank you so much. Professor Smartsapon is an associate professor of political science, also a lecturer at the Kumasi Technical University, joining us with his thoughts on the issues that Alan Chamantin raises earlier today at the economic summit that he, together with the Movement for Change, organized. Now, the flag bearer of the NDC, former President John Dramani Mahama, has assured the next NDC administration will deal with the insecurity situation in Boko. He noted that robbery has become a major problem in Boko, a situation he says is affecting the economy of the Upper East region. The flag bearer of the NDC was addressing the Upper East Regional House of Chiefs in Bolgatanga earlier today. Let's listen to the NDC flag bearer.
One is the chieftaincy crisis, which our president talked about, and I think that it's unfortunate that this crisis has reared its head again. At the time we were in office, we had virtually calmed things. Boko was a thriving community again. People were going about their business without fear of being harmed. Unfortunately, now you cannot roam freely in Boko. Just recently, I was reading they have put the ban on riding motorcycles again in the evening. And generally, it's a period of insecurity for the people living in that area. In the night, buses are fired upon and people are killed. Sometimes when the buses are going from Boko down, they are waylaid on the Bolga-Tamale highway, and some unknown people fire shots into the bus and injure people. These are things that we're going to make a priority when we come. We have done it before, we'll do it again. We will work hard to resolve the Boko crisis and bring peace back to Boko and surrounding areas. The second aspect of the insecurity is armed robbery. Armed robbery has become a major problem here, and it's affecting the economy of the Upper East region. You go to market days, you are coming back, armed robbers set on you, and they rob the people. We're going to mount a very strong fight against armed robbery, because you cannot have economic progress. You can't have economic progress in an environment of insecurity, and so it's imperative that we make sure that our region is safe and secure so that people can go about their businesses without fear of being harmed or killed.
That's the flag bearer of the NDC, John Dramani Mahama, there. Now, the Public Interest and Accountability Committee, PIAC, is raising concerns over the failure of the Jubilee Oil Holdings Limited to pay some $70 million into Ghana's Petroleum Holding Fund. The development, according to PIAC, becomes the fourth consecutive time Jubilee Oil Holdings has failed to make the statutory payment, amounting to some $340 million. The latest is captured in the semi-annual report of PIAC. And I'm going to walk you through the key details of this PIAC semi-annual report, because they say that Jubilee Oil Holdings Limited failed to pay $70.4 million by June 2023, the fourth consecutive non-payment amounting to about $343 million. GNPC received no revenue from oil lifting despite investing some $6.4 million into 10 failed limit. That's also retention of $100 million capping on Ghana Stabilization Fund Flout 2023 LI 2381. Also, the capping of failure resulted in some 10.36% decrease in petroleum funds from $1.2 billion to some a little over $1 billion. Now, let's get a bit more detail into this. So Isaac Jamina is the IS coordinator at the Public Interest and Accountability Committee, PIAC. So, Jamina, good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening, and good evening to your listeners.
Now, with this fourth consecutive time that Jubilee Oil Holdings has failed to pay these monies as mandated, what has been the reason over the last four periods that they failed to do so?
So thank you for the opportunity, and good evening to your listeners once again. Listeners are aware that the Public Interest and Accountability Committee has a mandate to monitor the usage and management of Ghana's petroleum revenues as the Petroleum Revenue Management Act requires it to do. The Act requires the committee to publish 2 reports every year, an annual report by the 15th of March, and then a semi-annual report by the 15th of September. So for the year 2023, the semi-annual report is what has been published, and highlights of which you are raising for the attention of the public. I think the Jubilee Oil Holdings issue is an issue that has been in our reports for some time now. The PIAC's position is essentially on the basis that the Act 815 provides in sections 6 and 7 that the indirect participation of the state in upstream petroleum operations, any revenue that flows from the indirect participation of the state in upstream petroleum operations should be paid into the Petroleum Holding Fund. Now, as citizens may be aware, this transaction arose when Anadako, one of the partners on the field, wanted to sell their interest and exit the country. And as a matter of right, the interest was first offered to Ghana as the state. And because GNPC is the representative, the commercial representative of Ghana in the upstream petroleum operation, the expectation was that they would have acquired the interest for Ghana so that whatever was acquired, 7%, would be added to what Ghana has already in both Jubilee and Tenfield. But as things turned out, the interest was acquired by GNPC, but it ended up with a company that was to hold the interest temporarily, which ended up becoming GNPC's subsidiary. And the argument of GNPC has been that to the extent that JOHL is a private company incorporated under the Companies Act 2019, it does not have the obligation that PIAC is raising from the Petroleum Revenue Management Act to pay the proceeds into the Petroleum Holding Fund. It's the reason the revenue has not been paid into the Petroleum Holding Fund, which position the committee disagrees and is the basis of the finding and the recommendation you have raised.
I see, and it's important that you put that foundational agreement, in fact, the details in there, very important. But I recall as well that earlier in the year, that's January, that's last month, the government completed the divestiture of the Jubilee Oil Holdings Limited shares to GNPC Exploco, a subsidiary of GNPC. Now, the Parliament's Committee on Mines and Energy also captured this in the report in the third session of this 8th Parliament. Now, does this particular development in any way also raise fundamental questions about, one, how this is going to impact on our interests as a people, as a country, in this JOHL after the complete divestiture of its shares to GNPC Exploco?
Well, thank you. So to provide a bit of context, let's say that at the time the interest was acquired and was held temporarily by JOHL, it had then not been registered in Ghana. So when PIAC raised the issue, one of the issues we raised based on the provisions in the Petroleum Act 2016, Act 919, was that any company that participates in upstream petroleum operations in Ghana should be registered in Ghana, should be incorporated in Ghana. So it was the basis of the finding and the recommendation that at least the company should be registered in Ghana. It's of interest. I mean, it's interesting to know that the interest has now been transferred to GMPC Ex-Loco, one of the subsidiaries of GMPC. But from discussions that the committee has had with GMPC, it doesn't look like this is going to lead to a change in its position. And GMPC's argument is that GMPC Ex-Loco is a subsidiary of GMPC, also incorporated under the Companies Act 2019 of Ghana, which does not come under the PRMA, and so it does not have the obligation to pay the revenues from that 7% interest on both Jubilee and 10 fields into the Petroleum Holding Fund. PIAC still stands by its position that looking at the beginnings of the transaction, because if you just look at the end product, the fact that it's being held by a private company limited by shares, you would just conclude and say that it should not be paid into the Petroleum Holding Fund. But if you look at the beginning, how the whole thing arose, the fact that the interest was first offered to Ghana on the principle of right of first refusal, then PIAC stays with its position that the interest should have been bought by the state and should have been added to the interest that the state holds, which GMPC operates for the state. Let me also add that GMPC took a loan from the Ministry of Finance to pay for the interest. So if the state could give a loan for GMPC to buy it, then the state could have bought the interest and added it to what the state has in both Jubilee and 10 fields. So it doesn't look like the transfer of the interest from JOHL to GMPC Ex-Loco is going to lead to a change. It will be an interesting development to see it lead to a change, but based on discussions that PIAC has had with GMPC, it doesn't look like it. But that is actually what PIAC is expecting, that ultimately it will happen.
We'll see how things play out on this matter, because at this point in our lives as a country, we need all the dollar we can get, is it not? And if this has to happen, we have to find a way. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you. Good evening to your listeners once again.
Isaac Dramana is the IS coordinator with the Public Interest and Accountability Committee, PIAC. So live here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Now, to some more stories. With the unpredictable rainfall pattern due to the climate change, some Ghanaian farmers are missing out on their production targets. The Ghana Country Climate Development Report indicates without urgent climate action, about 1 million Ghanaians risk falling into poverty by 2050. Here is Ibrahim Abubakar speaking with some farmers on the situation.
1 acre, you won't get the bags that you are receiving. That is the impact of climate change. You grow cassava, you're going to get about 10 tons of cassava. You grow cassava now, you won't get it. You may get about 6 or 5 or even 4 tons, out of 1 acre. So we really are going through these challenges because of the impact of climate change. It's really worsening poverty among farmers, and I think that we really want to employ the government, stakeholders to really look at the impact of climate change so that we can adapt a resilient approach in solving this crisis.
As the impact of climate change there, and at least we're seeing evidence of it in experiencing Hamatan in February. So unusual. But Mami Ajua Khan is here, and there's good reason. We're going to be getting into sports shortly, but today 3FM Your Urban Lifestyle Radio is premiering the new show, the WMT show. What does WMT mean? Mami Ajua Khan is the lead producer of the program. She's joining us here. Mami, it's good to have you.
Good to be here.
Good stuff. What's WMT?
Okay, WMT basically means what matters today. So we're going to be discussing issues that matter to everybody, every Ghanaian, issues that we've dealt with over the weeks, issues that have come up this week. But this is going to be, with a different twist, because we are not going to do... The twist is we're not going to do, the typical current affairs that, you get to hear every time. This time you get to see the relaxed side, of very exciting personalities. We have two very exciting comedians joining. They are, in fact, hosting the show tonight.
There are two comedians
hosting
What Matters Today.
Yes.
Okay.
So what you would take as a current affairs, they would give you the other version.
All right.
So you're not going to have your typical, current affairs, but you're going to
stuff,
have
like Johnny's Bite.
Yeah,
so this is more like the flip side of Johnny's Bite.
Broken down, for everybody. And it's because it around this time, there's a lot happening in Ghana. There's a lot happening with respect to, issues, So we would want people to distress. We would want people between the hours of 7 to 8, we would want people to relax and enjoy the comedians as they give you their own version.
Who are these comedians? I mean, the host of this WMT show.
Okay, these are very exciting people. If you have been in that space or you've listened to them, we have the Obi Aponsan, we have Lexi the comic. They're very, they're people you can't have. Should I say you can't have a very long conversation without
you can't
laughing?
Have a dull moment.
Oh no, yeah, they bring joy everywhere they go. So we're hoping that the program would sort of get people to be more relaxed and also take the serious issues that they bring on board tonight.
I see. So what time is it?
It's starting 7:05 and we're ending at 8 p.m. tonight.
7:05.
Yes.
To 8 p.m.
Yes.
Good stuff. On 3FM 92.
On 3FM 92.7.
WMT show. What
matters today.
Good stuff. Bami Adwakan, lead producer, as always. Congratulations to you and the team.
Thank you so much, Alfred.
Yeah. Let's get into sports now. And Emmanuel Andam is here with the latest in the world of sports. Emma, there's a quarterfinals match.
Tonight. Tonight. So we have currently Nigeria are playing Angola, and as it stands, the scoreline is 1-0 at halftime. Later tonight, DR Congo will take on Guinea in the second quarterfinal fixture of the day. And ahead of the game, 3 Sports Thierry shared his thoughts on what to expect in the clash.
Well, I think that this would be a very interesting game, considering how Guinea qualified. It wasn't the most flattering of wins against Equatorial Guinea, especially considering how Equatorial Guinea were reduced to 10 men early on in the second half, but still managed to win themselves a penalty. Could have easily gone ahead in that game. It was very ill-fated, especially in the end, and how Guinea fought on to win. DRC, on the other hand, qualified to this stage by beating Egypt via penalty shootouts, and that is definitely no easy thing to do, considering Egypt are the most decorated. But Egypt didn't show up in this tournament. In the group stages, they were one of the least decent teams. They were very underwhelming, didn't perform too well. So these two teams going head-to-head is not exactly the standout fixture of this round, but it could provide a lot of fireworks, considering the number of good players that are available in this particular game. And I think it definitely would be a very interesting one.
That was the voice of 3 Sports Thierry. However, the action does not stop there, as Mali will face Ivory Coast and Cape Verde take on South Africa later on Saturday. Now let's cross over to Europe, where Manchester United manager Erik ten Hag has described 18-year-old Kobbie Mainoo as a generational talent and believes that the young midfielder has got the quality to be a phenomenal player for Manchester United.
Not the manager telling her proud, but he's making incredible progress. And he has great abilities. I think he's the modern midfield player, can attack, can defend. He has the intelligence to do both, but also the physicality, and he's also composed.
You mentioned naive.
So that was the voice of Manchester United head coach Erik ten Hag. Now let's end the sports news with some interesting fixtures taking place in the Premier League over the weekend. Everton will play host to Tottenham Hotspur, Brighton take on Crystal Palace, Wolves will welcome Chelsea, Manchester United will take on West Ham, and finally Arsenal versus Liverpool. And that brings an end to the sports news here on Hot Edition. My name is Emmanuel Andam. Up next is entertainment with Akofa.
Good evening, and it's time for the business news on Hot Edition. This evening, the Monetary Policy Committee of the Bank of Ghana announced a reduction in the policy rate from 30% to 29% on Monday. What does this mean, and what is the likely impact on the average Ghanaian? This explainer by Michael Obudu has the details.
Earlier this week, the Monetary Policy Committee of the Bank of Ghana announced a reduction in the policy rate from 30% to 29%. But why does this matter? Last year, Ghana faced a severe inflation challenge soaring to over 53%. This largely affected the prices of goods and services in what was globally described as a cost of living crisis. Now, to counter this, the central bank raised the policy rate, reaching 30%. The aim was to cool down spending and reduce inflationary pressures. Fast forward to the end of the year, and inflation has considerably dropped to about 23%. Impressive, right? This positive trend prompts a reevaluation of the policy rate. Now, industry players, aware of the link between the policy rate and economic growth, have been advocating for a reduction in the rate to stimulate economic activities. So how does this affect the average Ghanaian? A lower policy rate often means reduced interest rates on loans, from mortgages, car loans, and personal loans, you name it. This can stimulate borrowing and spending, potentially boosting economic growth. However, the central bank must balance the need for economic growth with the risk of reigniting inflation. Hence, any adjustment in the policy rate is a carefully considered decision. In conclusion, as the Bank of Ghana adjusts the policy rate, it's a nuanced dance to maintain stability, foster growth, and keep inflation in check. A dance that resonates with every Ghanaian, shaping the economic landscape we all navigate.
That was an explainer by my colleague Michael Obudu. Away from that, the Institute of Exports and International Trade has said that Ghana is strategically positioned to play a vital role in the global supply chain, and efforts should be directed towards capitalizing on this advantage. According to the Institute, Ghana's favorable geographical location, coupled with geopolitical stability, positions it positively for business progression. There's more in the following report.
The once seamless global supply chain is now facing challenges, especially after the COVID-19 impact. The industry is still recovering, and external factors like geopolitical tensions in Ukraine and adverse weather conditions are affecting energy and food supplies. This has led to rising prices, supply challenges for businesses, and disruptions in production. The journey to normalization may take time, and more issues could arise.
Well, I think geographically, politically, and economically, this is Ghana's opportunity, because as these supply chains are morphing and changing, and we move from highly efficient but significantly fragile supply chains, we need to look at resilient anti-fragile supply chains. And the west coast of Africa is the key link where industry and supply chains can develop, because you are not constrained by Suez Canal, by the Malacca Strait, or by the Bosphorus or Panama.
Regarding Ghana's situation, the Director General of the Institute of Export and International Trade, Marco Forgioni, sees a crucial role for his organization in helping Ghana establish itself under a free trade regime, especially with the African Continental Free Trade Area AfTA in place.
The Institute is here to help turn what is potential into reality. And you look at what that means with regards to the AFCFTA and the Continental Free Trade Area. Ghana can be the spark that really ignites what Africa can achieve.
And that's how we end the business segment. So on Hot Edition, my name is Minuafo. Visit www.3news.com for more business stories. We bring a Hot Edition now to an end. Do stay tuned. We have more interesting content for you.